Episode 8 of the Westies begins with Mickey learning that Sweeney gave the order to kill Sean. He's determined to kill the guy and go after his gang with all their firepower, but Jimmy knows that's suicide. Instead, he decides they should play it smart, bide their time to hit back. The key could be to get to Big Paul Castellano. Now, Eamon Sweeney is also struggling to deal with Jimmy's eviction from the gang, venting to Eddie about how he looks at Jimmy like a son and taught him everything. Eddie reminds him he did what he had to do, and if it was up to him, Eddie would just cut ties and make provisions to prepare for a counter-attack. Now, while this is going on, Bridget is invited up to the Colonel's personal suite. She's understandably nervous given what she's about to do, and after slipping the knife into her stockings, she heads out the bathroom and finds herself completely at gunpoint. It turns out the Colonel recognised her immediately from her silly wig, and he's had informants looking for Bridget too. Through Father Michael O'Donnell's sloppiness, he's had the guy watch for months and subsequently found Bridget, aka Sarah. Now, another bombshell comes though when Colonel Markham admits that Brendan Cahill was the one who actually gave up her parents in the first place. In return, he bought his own freedom. The Colonel looks like he's about to rape Bridget, until off screen she stabs the guy and kills him outright. When the Colonel's agent heads up and finds him lying in a pool of his own blood, the hunt for Bridget is on. Eddie and his boys show up at the pub, but Jimmy's men are waiting for them. A shootout inevitably ensues, and although Jimmy and Mickey hold them off, they're not out of the woods just yet, because Connor winds up shot. When Bridget returns home, she finds Connor in the bathtub looking the worse for wear. He's bleeding out, and it seems the bullet is still wedged inside him. Now, Bridget is in no position to do anything right now, and she's pretty shook up after killing the Colonel. Not wanting to stew and do nothing, she confesses to Jimmy what she's done before bringing in a doctor to tend to Connor's injuries. Despite Eamon suffering fatalities on his side too, in the form of long-standing member Declan, Eddie encourages and unravelling Eamon to let him finish this. In the aftermath of the fighting though, Polk and Keenan show up at the pub. Keenan knows this is more than a drunken bar brawl, and given Eamon's gang is unravelling, he sees it as the perfect opportunity for them to swoop in and take advantage of the chaos. With Connor healed up for now, Jimmy calls Eamon and decides they should have a sit down, just them to hash out their issues. In reality, Jimmy knows Eamon is going to use his location, the body shop, to send Eddie over to kill him. Elsewhere, Gotti finds the bug that Polk installed, which is right on the ceiling and not exactly subtle. Polk immediately calls out Keenan for this, but Glenn is about to meet with Jimmy Rourke, solidifying this stitch up with Eamon. Danny is picked up by Eamon's men in the midst of this and brought to Eamon, unaware of everything that's happening. Eamon immediately promotes him as an official member of the team and hands over a gun. His one job is to protect Eamon, and that comes from killing Glenn, his own father. Now, Eddie shows up at the body shop, where Mickey and Jimmy immediately blindside him and tie the guy up. It's a scene we've seen repeatedly this season, and this time Jimmy allows Mickey to go to town and torture the guy. Now, Brendan shows up to see Bridget, who immediately cuts the BS and asks about the Colonel's confessions. Bridget is convinced now that Brendan betrayed her and is the real rat in the operation, and demands he leave. And Jimmy shows up to pay back his loan to Ruby Stein, but he also comes with a much bigger proposal. With Eamon Sweeney seemingly headed for an early retirement, Jimmy wants to take charge of the Javits Center deal, although he'll need Big Paul's approval first. On top of that, Jimmy has a large amount of cocaine to move and needs the money laundered. He's willing to split the profits with Ruby though, making the arrangement potentially lucrative for them both. Now, Ruby Stein next meets with Big Paul to present Jimmy's offer, and the pair hash out the logistics of this potential new deal. Next, Jimmy meets with Glenn, who has 2 kilos of coke ready for him to sell. After he heads back to the bar, makes himself a drink and finds Danny lying in wait. It turns out he's told Glenn all day, and now, face to face with his father, Glenn tries to explain himself, but Danny is having none of it. After his gun is swiped, the kid quickly hightails it away. Jimmy returns to Eddie, who's pretty stoned after being fed a bunch of pills from Mickey. He is lucid enough to make a call at gunpoint though, telling Eamon that Jimmy is dead and to meet at the warehouse. The abrupt nature of the call cutting out certainly puts Eamon on edge though, but he heads out with his men all the same to the warehouse. A firefight inevitably breaks out, with Jimmy holding Eamon at gunpoint, while Mickey sticks to the rafters and takes out the other men. Eventually the pair do have their big sit down, with Jimmy spelling out his big plan to usurp Eamon and make a deal with Big Paul. Jimmy has never forgiven Eamon for spilling their blood to appease the Italians, especially as the bad blood between them is never going to be settled. Now, Eamon explains that he loves Jimmy like his own son, while Jimmy retorts back that he really looked up to the guy. However, Jimmy isn't going to kill him. At least not yet anyway. Jimmy admits he has a better plan, and after driving off, those 3 kilos that Jimmy dealt with Glenn is left in his car. Well, the police obviously show up, Eamon is arrested for drug smuggling with Eddie, while Jimmy ends up as the big boss of the gang. John Gotti is hung out to dry with Jimmy no longer dealing with him, while Jimmy and Mickey toast to doing things their way, ending this first season. So the Westies bows out with a dramatic action-packed finale, which sees the situation involving Eamon and Jimmy come to a crazy conclusion. Eamon Sweeney is still alive, at least for now given J.K. Simmons has carried this show, while the situation between the Italians and Jimmy's gang is more volatile than ever before. Whether Big Paul will go ahead with this new world order involving Jimmy is anyone's guess, but across this first season we've seen that Jimmy's been reckless and somehow flirted his luck and come out on top in the end. How long can he ride that luck, I wonder? Now Ruby Stein could prove to be invaluable to Jimmy going forward, especially if he keeps to his deal of actually giving up a share of the profits, or alternatively, this could prove to be Jimmy's worst nightmare if he doesn't keep to his promise. There's plenty here to keep things ticking over for a second season if this is renewed, while the only subplot that's really been resolved is this Bridget/IRA drama. It seems likely now that Brendan was the mole all along, and although Bridget does manage to kill the Colonel, it's unclear whether Brendan will return to the story or not. Either way, there's been plenty here to whet the appetite, even if the show has been a little hit or miss at times. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.